Pauper players sure have been spoiled lately with Hawkeye's Bow, Guac and Marshmallow Pizza, Surveillance Cam, and many other cards from recent sets. Let's see what the Hobbit brings to the table. Hey everybody, welcome back to the kitchen table. Today we're going to take a look at the Hobbit set and all the commons in it, and if any of them are good enough for Pauper. Let's dive in. So first off, we have Dwarven Provisioner. We've seen this effect before on a rabbit. He doesn't see play. I don't think the dwarf will either. Dwarven Short Sword, kind of boring at 4 mana. You get a 2/2 dwarf attached to it, and equipped creature gets +1/+2. Nothing great there. Esgaroth Garrison. This one really excited me when I first read it, but then I misread it. So it's got the Leonardo effect. Its power is equal to the number of creatures you control, and when it enters, it recruits. Recruit is a new ability. It's kind of similar to Connive. You draw a card, discard a card, and if you discard a non-land card, you make a 1/1 token. I thought this said when any creature enters, and I thought, wow, what a powerhouse. But no, it's just this creature, and at 5 mana, it's not good enough. Lake Town Lookout is pretty exciting, but there's already a glut at 1 mana for white. This has to compete with both Inspectors, the Interceptor, the Soul Sisters, all sorts of 1-drops. I don't think this breaks through. I like the ability though. Magnificent End, some damage, creature removal. We've seen similar cards with the cost be less if it hits a tapped creature or hits an attacking creature or some sort of condition there. I think Magnificent End is interesting, but I don't think it's better than other removal white already has. Moment of Glory. This reminded me first of cards like Homestead Courage for Heroic. The flashback is way too expensive, though, even if puts a counter on all your creatures. I could see this maybe as a one-of in White Weenie as a extra Crusade type effect, but for a deck like Heroic, you're better off with the existing cards. Ori Keeper of Songs. We get Storied, which is another new mechanic. If you have 3 or more artifacts, legendaries, and or sagas, you get a story for the rest of the game. Kind of like the City's Blessing, once you get the story, you never lose it. And as long as you have a story, Ori gets +1/+1 as Vigilance. So best case scenario, you get a 4/3 Vigilance for 3. I'm not excited. It's a legendary creature, so it does dodge cast down. We're seeing a lot more legendaries be printed at common. I think cast down is still probably the best removal in the format, but people might start switching to Terminate. Thorn's Last Stand is exciting. I love modal cards. You get a charge effect at +2/+1 for all your creatures, or you can destroy an artifact or enchantment and gain 2 life. But at 4 mana, I think it's a touch too high. I would rather just play the existing charge cards for +2/+2. I think Velvet Wing Butterflies is the best card so far. I can see this living in a Gates deck. It can be both offensive and defensive, tapping blockers or tapping attackers before they get in. And then you get a 2/2 flyer at the end of it that you could suit up with a gate. I don't think that's bad. I think this might actually see play. Vow to Erebor, neat little combat trick. I don't think the dwarf part is relevant. This is probably an all-star and limited as a combat trick, but I don't think this will see play in constructed. So for whites, I think our best card out of the set is Velvet Wing Butterflies. Let's move on to blue. I love Bilbo Baggins Burglar, but I don't know why. His Take a Glance is a worse Serum Visions and a definitely worse Preordain. Preordain sees a lot of play, Serum Visions already doesn't, so you already have an uphill battle here. And then when he enters, you draw a card. So my first thought was putting this into Familiars. I don't know if this is better than Seagate Oracle. I'd be interested in trying that out. I think early game, the Scry 2 might be better on turn 1 or turn 2. And then you get a 2/1 that draws a card that you can flicker in and out, similar to what you would do with the Seagate. Confisticate and Bebother. This card seems awesome, It's another modal card. You counter spell unless they pay 4, so that's going to be almost a counter spell for 3. Or you draw 2 and discard a card. Um, those are 2 good effects. Stapled together on 1 card is awesome. I think this sees play over Prohibit in some builds. I could see this played in decks that care about Sneaky Snacker, because you get 2 cards on the draw. And it's just a nice, you always have something to do with this card. This could go into Terror pretty easily. I think this will see play. Elven King's Harper, a blue elf. That's pretty cool, but nothing else about this card is exciting. Enchanted River's Grasp. We've seen similar effects. This seems like it's designed to hose Wraithing Chrysalis in particular, but really any cards with a lot of counters on it. I think Black Sack might get hit in the crossfire here. That deck's kind of on the fringes now, not as popular as it used to be. But I think Enchanted River's Grasp is a good sideboard option. There are similar effects already with Bind the Monster and One Who Cannot Scream, but the fact that it removes all the counters, I think that's a real interesting play against cards like Chrysalis. Gandalf is too big to do anything important. He's got Ward 3, and he can draw some cards, but I don't think he sees any play. I am really excited about Lakeshore Apothecary. It's 1/2 Vigilance for 2. Whenever you draw your second card, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. We've seen this effect before, but it usually costs 3. I think Shaving a Mana is huge here. I think this has an instant home in Terror decks, because, let's say you play this on turn 3 and then you ponder, you have a 2/3. And then, or let's say you play this on turn 2, and then on your turn 3 you ponder, you've got a 2/3. Then at the end of their turn you brainstorm, you've got a 3/4. And then on your turn you mental note, you've got a 4/5 vigilance. It's an extra growing monster they have to deal with. I could see this played over Delver even. But I was also really high on the Penguin Otter from Avatar, and that didn't see any play. So I might be wrong on this one, but just looking at it, this card seems very powerful. Long Lake Nuisance is a 3/1 that recruits when it enters, so you have a chance to make a 1/1 white soldier token. In a world with Lava Dart, a 3/1 flyer is not very impressive. Mirkwood Mediator is up next. Landfall, you switch its power and toughness effectively, or it becomes a 4/2. It doesn't actually switch. I don't think that sees play anywhere. It's a blue elf though. Those are always fun. One of the Troll Shards is interesting. My first comparison is obviously Think Twice, a card that already doesn't see any play. Think Twice is a flashback of just 3, but you draw 1 card. This is a flashback of 4, and you draw 2 cards. This is almost a reverse Deep Analysis. I think the options for blue are already strong enough that you don't need to play Plunder the Troll Shards. But I like this card, just from a design point. And maybe this sees play as a one of in some grindier blue decks. Uneasy Partisans reminds me of Demon Furier. I could see an even split of Uneasy Partisans and Demon Furier in Terror. Instead of drawing cards for a discount, you get a discount if you're targeting an attacking non-token creature, and then they get to choose on top or on the bottom. I guess Demon Fury is a little better because it doesn't go directly on top; it goes on the second. So I may have just talked myself out of Easy Partisans. Demon Fury is probably a better choice. So for blue, I think our best cards are Lakeshore Apothecary and Confiscate and Bebother, and I would like to experiment with Bilbo Baggins Burglar. I think he could be good. I'm just not sure if he's good enough to unseat the current cards being used in decks that would want him. On to black, we get a functional reprint of Murder, which doesn't see play anyway, so I don't think Bilbo's Deadly Slice will make an impact. We get a worse Blade effect, where they sacrifice a creature when it enters. I would rather have the 2-mana one. Or I forgot the name, Tithing Blade. We also get a card for Black Sack that won't see play. There's a ton of one drops that do the same thing that don't see play, except for Shambling Ghast because it is modal. You can make a treasure or you can give a -1/-1. At 2 mana for a 2/2, I don't think that's very special. We get another legend at Golem Silent Slinker. He's got two modes. You can go on an adventure, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and target player gains 2 life. And then you get a 4/3 Menace. 4/3 Menace isn't bad for 4, but I don't know what deck wants this. Great Fierce Bee, I think, is an all-star. It's a flyer, and whenever one or more other creatures die, anybody controls, not just your creatures, you scry 1. So my first thought is you pair this in John Wildfire with Clan Shaman, and then you scry 5 when you wipe the board. That's huge, and you still have the bee because it flies, it won't die to the Shaman. I definitely think this guy sees a lot of play. He's going to be a staple, I think. Rage into the Valley, draw a card, lose a life, and Amass Goblins too. So we're getting some Amass cards in this set, which makes sense. Kind of on theme with the Lord of the Rings cards, except this time it's goblins instead of orcs. This card reminds me of Phyrexian Rager, which is a 2/2 for 3 that does the same thing. And that card doesn't see play. So unless Amass Goblins becomes relevant, this card won't matter. But I think there's enough Amass Goblins later on in this set that there could be a deck here. A little teaser. Stay tuned for that. Next, we have a pretty irrelevant 2/2 Death Toucher that can gain some life if you attack. Not very important. I think Reverent Howl is cool. I think it's interesting you put this in the same deck, in the same set with Rage into the Valley, as it's another draw spell. Black has a lot of draw 2, lose 2 life cards. It can target a player, so you can hit a spy player out of nowhere. That's kind of cool. Get a surprise win when they empty their library to flashback Lotless Giant. And it's also modal, which is always nice. It's nice to have a choice. Pretty good combat trick with +2/+2 and lifelink to swing a battle. I like it a lot. I don't know where it lives. What deck wants this? I'm not sure. If you're playing it for the draw 2, you're probably playing Poison Storm and you want the Infectious Inquiry instead. Or you're playing Rowan's Grim Search and you're bargaining artifacts to get more selection. So I like the card. I like that it's target player. I just don't know where it lives. Stir Up Trouble, we get a functional Bone Shards type of card. There's a million of these already and none of them see play. And then we get a Ravenous Rats that hits all opponents for your commander deck. Not very important here. So best cards for black are by far Great Fierce Bee. I like that one a lot. And I think Rage into the Valley and Reverent Howl are very interesting if there's support around them. If they find a home in the right deck. On to red. We get Dory Bearer of Friends. 3/2 Trampler for 3. We've seen that before in green with Jeweled Lotus. And he makes a treasure. There's the comparison I was looking for. He's also legendary, so he dodges cast down. I could see this as one or two of, just to get some diversity in Gruul Ramp. Not bad. I don't think you need to play him, but a 3/2 Trampler is pretty good. Goblin Town Flunkies, on the other hand, has me pretty excited. He's got haste, which is awesome, and he makes a 1/1 when he comes into play. But more importantly, he masses a Goblins one. So we're kind of seeing that Amass Goblins plan come together, right? I could see this deck in Bushwhacker Red. Getting an extra token creature to attack with and to pump with Bushwhacker. And maybe there's a Rakdos Amass deck. We'll keep going down the set. I think Goblin Town Flunkies is going to see some play somewhere. Gun to Bad Opportunist, Impulse Draw on a 4/2 body for 4. Not really impressed. I don't think that cuts any cards out of existing builds. Iron Hill Starwart is gigantic at 5 mana. No one will see that play. It's a 4/5 reach trampler with some equipment shenanigans, but way too expensive for today's current pauper. Owen the Brave, our second storied card. Pretty easy for red decks to get storied with blood tokens and the like. If you have a story, he gets +1/+1 haste, and he loses, or rummages, discard to draw. So maybe this is a one of in Rakdos Madness. A lot of good discard outlets or discard payoffs in that deck. Always good to have an extra outlet. So not terribly exciting, but I think you could see play. Pinecone Strike seems like an awesome sideboard card. It permanently deals with a snacker or neutral monitor, so you can't blood fountain it back. 3 damage and it's removed forever. And you get to choose one or both. So as you're doing that, you can also hit a stray map token, or clue token, or blood token. Get a nice little 2-for-1. I already really like Suplex. It'll be interesting to see if the exile any artifact overcomes the instant speed need, because Suplex can also remove a snacker from the game permanently. I think Pinecone Strike is good, but it's going to compete with Suplex for sideboard slots. Ragged Short Spear is the next card in a long line of recent discard 1 to draw 2, so clearly a sneaky snacker enabler. This one's an equipment, so the idea is turn 2 Spear, discard your snacker, get it back with a draw 2, and then turn 3 equip it with the Spear and attack for 4. That's not bad. Is it better than Grab the Prize? Probably not. Is it better than the other discard ones to draw 2s? If you don't care about haste, this is probably better than Bitter Reunion. This is definitely better than Kickstart Celebrations, which doesn't see play anyway. And I like Sazakap's Brew a little more because you can target any player to draw the 2. Another kind of silver bullet against Spy. But I think Ragged Short Spear sees play somewhere. I think this finds a home. It might even be better than Melded Moxite. Time will tell. I think this card has a lot of potential. Smog's Fury is next. Really good combat trick. Pretty much kill any creature. Give your attacker +3/+0 on first strike when it gets blocked. Or hold back and kill something important with your lowly Daring Epicure. I don't know what you cut to fit Smog's Fury into red decks. The red Madness deck is already very tight, and so is the Bushwhacker red. But I like this card. Maybe it sees play in Jund Wildfire or Naya Gates to give a first strike ability. I'm not sure, but the effect is powerful. Smog the Great Calamity. We get a legendary dragon at common. That's awesome. Although both his modes are not very good. 5 mana for 5 damage to any creature is not very powerful. And then the other side, the creature side, is a 5/5 flyer for 7. I don't think Smog sees play. It's an easy pass. Titans of War. We get Amass Goblins again. So we're kind of getting together. We got a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 3-drop that all Amass Goblins. And if you flash it back, you get to Amass Goblins 3. There's a curve there. I don't know if it's better than what you're currently doing with Rakdos Madness, but Rakdos Amass might be worth looking at. So best cards for red, I think, are Ragged Short Spear. I think Pinecone Strike is interesting for the sideboard. I think Owen the Brave sees play as a one of in a couple decks. And I really like Goblin Town Flunkies. Dory could also, it's playable. There's nothing wrong with this card. It's playable. It could replace Eldrazi Repurposer and Gruul Ramp to get an extra trample for your ram throughs. I don't know. It just seems like this card will see play as a 1 or 2 of. It also dodges Cast Down, which is relevant. Red gets a lot in this set. Contrast that to green, which I don't think gets a lot at all. We get a 2/1 Reach Death Touch Spider with landfall. It gets a little bigger. Not a counter though. They're just going back to the ++1 on a turn. If it was a counter, I think this card would be way better, obviously. As such, I don't think this sees play. I was torn when I first saw Bjorn Reluctant Host. You get an Explore effect without drawing a card, which kind of sucks. Explore is Pauper legal, and no one plays it. But the fact that you can Explore and then later make a 5/5 Trampler, maybe this sees play in Ramp. I wouldn't be mad to cascade into this with Boarding Party and get an extra 5/5 Trampler on the board. That's not bad. So I don't know. I could see him being played as a one of these. Also legendary. You dodge his cast down. I think Wizards is making a point to make legendaries at common for Pauper. Both Side Wanderers is kind of huge. He's got a Malevolent Rumble style effect, except you put it on the bottom of your library. You grab any permanent out of the 4 cards you flip over. It's kind of a commune with nature effect, really. And then landfall, he gets +2/+2. He's not going to see play. A 4/4 for 6 that becomes a 6/6 is no, that's way too expensive. Pauper is a very fast format. This won't cut it. Guardian of the Halls is a 2/2 elf that can get bigger. In this spot, I would rather just have Elvish Vanguard. Little bear, nice little flash creature, get a surprise blocker. Usually you'll just make it into a 4/3. Um, I don't think this sees play. I If you could put the +1/+1 counter on any creature, if the bear clause wasn't there, I'd be kind of excited to play this in Devoted Druid combo. But just a 4/3 for 3 with flash. I mean, it's not bad, but I think you can do better things than Pauper. Ordinary Bear at 4. Remember when Hill Giant was the gold standard? A 3/3 for 4 with no abilities? Now we get an unplayable 4/5 for 4. Man, Magic sure has changed. I like Coral a lot, but we already have Ram through. One-sided fight effects are cool. It's just effectively really good green removal. Um, I could see this as the 5th Ram through. Maybe 1 or 2 of in the sideboard. But I think you're always playing Ram through over Coral. It's not bad though. Wargling, another ferocious card, 2/2 for 2 that can get a little bigger when you attack. I'm not going to see play. Warg Tactics, really good modal card, really good sideboard. Destroy a creature with flying, that's good against a lot of decks, especially Affinity. And save your own creature with Hexproof and +1/+1 and Trample. So, gives a lot on that second ability. There are a bunch of green modal cards that do similar things, so maybe a nice splay of them in the board. 1 Warg Tactics, 1 Origin of Metal Bending, 1, whatever, Heritage Reclamation, and then set in as appropriate rather than just doing a spot of 3 or 4 of one particular card. You could definitely spice it up a little bit. I think Warg Tactics is good. I think it's a solid sideboard option. I would not be surprised if this saw some play. And Wood Elves is back. Wood Elves is Pauper legal already. One of my favorite cards from Exodus. Nobody plays it, and I'm really not sure why. It's a little slow at 3 mana, but you can grab the dual lands in Pauper. And I think that's powerful. But history has already shown that Pauper is too fast for Wood Elves, which is really sad. So not a lot for green here. I think Quarrel is good. I think Warg Tactics is good. And I think Bjorn might see some play. On to the hybrid cards. I think Patient and Structure might be the best card in the set. Maybe after Giant Bee. For 3 mana, you get a Vigilance and a Recruit ability. So I think this is just better than Rafine's Informant. It's going to see play in White Weenie for sure. I would be shocked if this didn't. I'm going to pick up a playset of 4 for my White Weenie deck. Goblin Plate Mail, we get another Amass Goblins. That Rakdos and Mass deck is really coming together. That's 16 cards. We do 4/4/4/4. This card doesn't seem very good apart from the Amass Goblins. You give a creature +1/+1 menace, but the equip cost is 4. But it does come equipped to that Amass Goblin, so if you already have a 2/2 or 3/3 Goblin from the other Amass cards, suddenly you have a 5/4 menace. That's not bad. Again, though, probably Rakdos Madness is just a better game plan than Rakdos Amass, but I'd like to see someone try the Amass deck. I think I think Wizards is kind of pushing Amass Goblins, and I'm definitely interested in it. Duskwatch Hunter, get a +1/+1 counter on any creature. So this is what I wanted with the bear. Most of the time, you're gonna get a 4/2 that can't be chump blocked by Eldrazi Spawn, but I would rather put that +1/+1 counter on Devoted Druid. But at 3 mana, there are cheaper ways to put +1/+1 counters on Devoted Druid. So I don't think Duskwatch Hunter has a home. I'd love to be proven wrong. He seems like a cool card. I like the ability of putting the counter on any creature, but I think there are just better options. Nori, Teller of Tales, we get a legendary dwarf that whenever he attacks, target attacking creature gains first strike. I like this at first glance, but I think you're either always going to attack with him and something else and give the bigger creature first strike, or you're going to attack with a 2/2 first striker every turn, which isn't really that powerful. Neat design, but I don't think he sees play. Maybe in a Boros deck with like Rally the Peasants. So suddenly you have a 4/2 first striker. That's pretty good. Um, I can talk myself into Boros. I can see Nori in a Boros aggro Boros shell. Why not? He's got to be better than some card you can cut from that deck. Mirkwood Nurturer is a bounce effect for your own stuff, like a core Skyfisher. Maybe Azorius bounce. Maybe Celestia bounce becomes the thing. You get an extra 4 cards to bounce. Although we already had White Mane Lion, which was similar but could not bounce any permanent, just creature. There's a lot of good things to bounce. Your 3-Wind Inspectors, your Cryogen Relics. Well, I don't know. I don't know if this deck exists, but if it does, blue-white bounce could use Murkwhite Nurture. Giant's Boulder is probably the best artifact in the set. It has an immediate home. In Tron. Tron's been getting some real goodies lately, with Bondage Ornament being unbanned and Barrels of Blasting Jelly being printed in Avatar. This you get a Scry 2, you get a Mana Filter, and you get a Destroy Target Permanent, all on one card. And for Tron, you're going to want that. Long Body Gray Dog artwork gives me the creeps. I don't like how that looks. The card is fine by itself, a 3/3 flash with reach. That gives you a treasure token. He's probably a surprise blocker. I like that he's colorless, but I don't think he's gonna make the cut in most decks. Old Thrush and Well-Worn Spatula kind of do the same thing for me. When it enters, you gain 2 life, so my immediate thought is bounce or flicker style decks. The Thrush gives you an extra basic land on top of your library, and the Well-Worn Spatula is kind of garbage after that. In both instances, I think I would rather just have the Compass that gives you 3 life, but maybe the Thrush as a way to always smooth out your land is not bad. It could also be in a multicolor deck, grabs any basic you need. But I don't think either of these two see play. Next, we get some basic lands with awesome flavor text. I will definitely be picking these up for they're probably the best basic lands. The art is great. The flavor text is awesome. I'm going to be picking up these for my decks for sure. Finally, we get this awesome cycle. I don't know if it's awesome. We get this very unique cycle. Another set of dual lands that enter tapped and can put 2+1/+1 counters on creature type that matters. So blue white, you're looking at humans. Black red, you're looking at orcs or goblins. So that Amass deck might get a little extra oomph. With Golgari, you're looking at bears, spiders, and wolves. Iron Hills, you're looking at a dwarf. They're really pushing dwarfs, but there's not a lot of dwarfs at common that matter. And then Elven King's Hall is probably the best, most exciting one for me. I love Devoted Druid Pizza combo. I would love if this card was a 3 activation and a tap. As such, 5 mana essentially to give your Druid +2/+2 is probably not worth it. But again, the opportunity cost to just put this in a deck over um, the tap land that gives you life, maybe that's better. Not sure. I'd like to try Elven King Hall for sure. And finally, Hobbit Hole. Um, Halfling Cyclone is funny. I don't think there's any good halflings to go grab though in Pauper, so that part's largely irrelevant. But if you're playing something like Terramorphic Expanse or Evolving Wilds, there's no reason not to play Hobbit Hole over those cards. At least let your opponent think that you might have a Hobbit worth grabbing. So for lands, I think these are all interesting. The uh, black red one probably sees play if the Goblin Amass deck is real. I am very interested in the green white one, or sorry, the green blue one for Devoted Druid. And they're just kind of, I mean, the opportunity cost to play these is so low. And then I don't think we did the artifact recap. Let me go back to that. So definitely for hybrid, I think Patient Instructor is a slam dunk. And for colorless, I think Giant Spawler is the best card. So to recap, white doesn't get much. I think Web-Winged Butterflies is exciting. Blue, as usual, gets some good stuff. I think Confiscate by Bother is great. I think Lakeshore Apothecary could be a powerhouse. I think Enchanted River's Grasp is a good sideboard card. I think Bilbo Baggins could find a home, but it might be hard to displace uh, current cards. And I think people will look at Plunder the Trollsharas, but I don't think it'll pass the test eventually. In black, we really get Great Fierce Bee is an all-star, and then I like both Reverend Hal and Rage into the Valley if the support around them is right. Red gets a ton of interesting playables. You could definitely play Dory. Goblin Town Flunkies I think will be good. Owen the Brave is a one of in Rakdos I think could be good. Pinecone Strike is interesting sideboard thought. Short Spear seems great. Smog's Fury is fun, but I don't know what you cut for it. And then if Rakdos Amass happens, you're going to want Titans of War for sure. Green gets kind of shafted. Bjorn is playable. Quarrel is good, but Ran Through is just better. And then Warg Tactics as a neat sideboard card. So there you have it. I think Patient Instructor is my favorite card in the set, followed closely by the Bee. I think this card is going to be huge in Jund Wildfire. Let me know what you folks think. Did I miss any cards? Did I miss any strategies? Do you think my analysis is off? Any of these cards have homes I didn't think about? Let me know in the comments. See you around the kitchen table.